You ready?
No, I don't know what we're talking about.
This time we're going to talk about important boundaries in marriage. How important it is for you to agree on those boundaries. How do you deal with relationships and, friendships even with the opposite sex? All right, welcome back to the On Second Thought podcast. I'm Jim Perdue.
And I'm Stephanie Perdue.
With my wife, just Stephanie. And we are so thankful that you've joined us. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you're tuning in. Thanks so much for being a part of this with us. This is a cool journey for us. And if you've got questions or thoughts, you can always check out our website, secondfamily.church/thoughts. And there's a way for you to send in questions. Sometimes they can be about zombies and aliens. You never know what kind of questions people are going to have. So last time we talked about
our anniversary
and
marriage and communication.
Yes. And so this time
I remembered.
You did. You did very good. I probably would not have remembered, but that's okay. That's why I have you. This time we're going to talk about important boundaries in marriage. Okay? And how important it is for you to agree on those boundaries. If you don't agree on boundaries, it can feel like your spouse is trying to put you into a box or force you into a corner you don't want to be in, right? But you and I early on discussed boundaries, we even talked early, like I don't think on our first date about, kind of music we don't listen to or would listen to, or the kind of movies we wouldn't watch. Or
we had boundaries even during our dating
relationship. And then in marriage, what were the boundaries that we established early on that have served us now for 21 years? So one of the things I think that first and foremost you have to talk about is, how do you relate to the opposite sex? How do you deal with relationships and, friendships even with the opposite sex? And I think I don't want to overstate this, so I want you to help me a little bit here, okay? But I don't really think I've got a lot of friends that are girls.
Mm-mm.
If we hang out with another female, typically it's going to be a female and a male, husband, wife, or another female, it's going to be one of your buddies. Like, I don't have friends of the opposite sex. Acquaintances, and coworkers and things like that, but it's not like I'm always texting somebody else, say, "Hey, how was your day?" Like, that's just not a thing. And I think the same could be said for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not that you don't have friends that are girls, but you don't have friends that are guys. And so we've put a lot of things in place in our relationship. And I think some of it, I'm sure, is because I'm a pastor and I want to be above reproach, without question, never alone with another female. The Billy Graham rule that Mike Pence was foolishly criticized for. I'm not going to be alone with another woman that's not my wife. But I do think, too, even if I wasn't a pastor, that would be a pretty important principle just as a husband. Right?
Well,
man.
What we've tried to teach our kids above reproach is, and also integrity, is if somebody accused you of that, no one would even believe it, because it would be so far-fetched and untrue.
Absolutely. That's a great point. The Bible even says that, that your opponents...
I mean, that's what we're always, that's what we're striving for.
Yeah, that your opponents would be ashamed that they even brought it up and no one would believe it. And so this goes into a few things we've put in place practically. So, for instance, my office, I have an area in my office that's my study. And so I study in there. And if I'm alone with anyone in the study, it's very, very rare. And it's never another female. I mean, I've been alone in the study with you. My kids will come in there, a couple of guys here and there showing them around or whatever. But mostly, like, I'm not with people.
Yeah.
And then I have a meeting office, and that meeting office has a full glass pane where if I'm meeting with anyone, and even if I'm meeting with a couple, my ministry assistant Sherry Baker will be sitting at her desk, and she'll stay there the duration of the meeting, even if I have to stay late. And I sit in a chair where she can see through that glass, and she can see me at any given moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't.
And that's protection for you.
Yeah,
and for the people.
It's yes. I mean, so if there was ever an accusation, there would be no way for that accusation even to be true. There would be no way. And I think the Bible tells us, give no place to the devil. Mm-hmm. And so, you're not going to have an affair if you're not ever alone with someone else of the opposite sex.
Right.
You're not gonna fall into that. And so that's, for me, first principle is to put those boundaries in place. I think too, technology these days is such a temptation for so many people. And one of the ways that people get snared is not just face-to-face interaction, but whether it's, pornography on a cell phone or on a computer, or whether it's communication via Facebook. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to and counseled, and some of the issues started with someone talking to somebody on Facebook, or, God forbid, dating sites and things like that when you're married. And so we've really worked hard, as the times have changed and technology's changed, to put some boundaries on technology and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, there's accountability in all of that, too.
Right.
So, I remember it was either right before we got married or right after we got married. I don't remember. But we had a couple much further along in their marriage that tried to explain to you, because I was always, I wanted to see your calendar. I wanted to know what was going on, what's happening in your life, what's going on.
Right.
And they were able to explain to you that for me, it wasn't that I was nosy or trying to control you, but it provided me safety and security.
Yeah.
In knowing just what was going on. And that was some marriage advice that you were given. Just touch base with her.
Right. Let her know what's going on.
Yeah. Throughout the day, maybe once.
Yeah.
Just to say.
And you need that even today. You need that. Because you may be running around to 1,000 different places with 500 different children. We don't have that many, but it feels like it sometimes. And but you still need from time to time, hey, everything good? Even a text or a phone call. And sometimes you'll call just to check in.
But a lot of people, or men especially, would feel like, why is she controlling me? Why is she trying to want to know what I'm doing all the time?
No, I'm cool with it.
Why does she want to know? And like for me, it was just more, I was interested in what you were doing in your life, and you're like, I don't care. I'm not trying to hide anything.
You yearn for knowledge.
I do yearn for knowledge.
You want to know.
I want to know all the things.
And that's good. And it never was for me like, well, why do you want to know that? Like,
well, that was just premarital.
Yeah, it was more like, this is my life, this is her life, the two are one, right? And so, we're doing this thing together. And then when technology advanced, I can remember paying money early on with an iPhone, paying money to connect our calendars, your calendar on your phone, my calendar, and my secretary's calendar. And I think that's back when we were in Tennessee. But I used to pay for what is freely offered today, but it was so neat back then that our calendars act like you put something on your calendar,
yes,
and it showed up on mine.
Yes, because you don't like paper calendars.
I don't.
You want it on your phone.
I can remember back when in high school, early, I was probably a freshman, and I had a little PDA, one of the old school little PDAs you could type things into. So I can all the way. But I don't like paper calendars. You still do. You still like paper, not like necessarily when you hang.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to have one now if you're not ever going to look at it.
I won't. I mean, if you put it in my face, I will. But I'm probably going to be, hey, what's on the calendar today?
No,
let me flip through the pages.
No, you have. So what are some boundaries that we've put in place? Like we share a calendar.
We share a calendar, so you see everything on my calendar. You have access to it. I have access to it. It's on my computer, your computer, both our phones. It's also connected to my assistant's computer as well. So she can add things, you can add things, we can take things away, we can move things, and we communicate extensively about what's on that calendar.
We do.
And it's not just like, hey, that's on the calendar, it ought to be, it ought to go unsaid. We still talk about it.
Yep.
Hey, you got this today. What about that? How are we going to do this? I mean, even today we're talking about things that we got to do this afternoon or what needs to take place. So we communicate about it verbally, but we also have it right there, technologically.
We also, talking about not being alone with the opposite sex, like we don't text,
right?
Opposite sex we try to keep it on a three-way if we can, but I get access to all of your texts too.
Right, and so that's one of the things that
he does not want access to all of my texts.
I really don't.
But he has freedom to pick up my phone anytime he wants and read that.
I would say this.
That laughter that is my phone.
You get so many texts. So many.
I will gladly give you some of my group me's for all of the kids, and I will be happy to let you have some of that.
I hate group me. No, thank you. So you mentioned something, and I think it's important to say this. If you will not allow your spouse to just grab your phone and look through it without any problem, that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
If there's like, why you want to see my phone? You don't need to be looking at my stuff. Like, whoa, that is a huge red flag, because what do you, well, that's my private stuff. What? Like, that's a huge, red flag. What's on the phone that you're worried about, And so, we talk about not texting the opposite sex, but, and I've talked to some guys, almost every time they text any lady, they're always adding their wife. And that is one way to do it. But what we've decided to do is you always have access to every text I send. And so if I text Sherry, my ministry assistant, or Hannah, who's here helping produce this podcast, or Miss Debbie, who's on our staff at church, or somebody else, Sadie's going to spend the night somewhere and I need to ask the mom a question, I can put you on that or not. And a lot of times, especially with coworkers, there are so many texts, I don't include you on that. But I know on your, and you're thankful for that. You. But on your computer at home,
the keeper of all things.
Your computer has access to every single text I send and receive. Even if I tried to delete them off my phone, guess where they're going to be?
On my computer.
They're on the computer. And I know that. So that's accountability for me. If I didn't have that, you'd probably be getting a lot more, hey, I added Stephanie to this conversation. Hey, I needed to put her on here. But because I know that you have access to all that. And that doesn't, it's not just,
That's just a boundary we have put in place.
Yeah, and it's not just, oh, wow, you're trying to have a relationship with this person. It's also accountability for just silly little inappropriate things you might say or do or those sorts of things. You want to be above reproach in this area regarding communication.
Yes. Well, and like with social media, because that gets people in so much trouble. You actually really hate social media, and you hate direct messages more than you hate social media. Like, he thinks that should be something you can turn off completely.
It may come as a shock to some people to hear how much I don't like social media. Specifically, like the favorite of my family, including my wife, is Instagram. And it's a big, super popular social media platform. I am on Instagram very little. And I've been on Twitter much longer. And Instagram to me just seemed like a bunch of pictures and, comments. But I think social media can be used for good. I think it's like anything, right? Like it's like a knife. A knife can be used for good. A knife can be used for bad. It's like money. Money can be used for good. Money can be used for bad. So I think social media, and the only reason I don't really like it is it just annoys me.
It does.
So it's not about, oh, it's terrible. Like, there are terrible things on social media. But as a pastor, I was on Facebook when we were in Tennessee for a little while because I love Scrabble, and you could play Scrabble on Facebook.
That was way before a lot of these people were born.
Hey, I know that Hannah and Austin were like in diapers or in elementary school, but I was on there for what, a year maybe?
Yes.
And then I had people say, "Hey, Pastor, can you please explain the incarnation?" in a direct message on Facebook. And I'm like, I have to write 6 pages to respond to you, and Facebook became like another job.
Well, a lot of that is because you feel compelled to have to answer people because that's the right thing to do.
Somebody. Like,
I don't care. I'm just going to move on.
I'm like, but then
no, I'm not answering
when I'm going to
one.
sleep tonight, he's like, you haven't answered that question.
Oh no, I
you
just
have an
roll
unread
over and go right
email.
back to bed.
You have the. I mean,
no.
So that's why I'm always working to have inbox 0 in my emails and all those kind of things. You have inbox 3 million.
They are all red though.
Are they?
They are.
Okay.
They are.
I think that social media serves a purpose, but I do not like direct messages because what I've noticed is some people I've never texted another female or I've never texted someone of the opposite sex, but then they see a photo and then they're going to DM this girl, direct message this girl, or the girl will direct message the guy. So I don't like direct messages, and you can't turn it off on Instagram.
You've tried.
And I have deleted the Instagram app from my phone, but not my account. And I have deleted the Twitter app from my phone, but not the account, because I love what we do for social media with the church and promoting things and want people to be able to follow and see what we're doing. But you have all my passwords to that too. You can log in. So on your Instagram app,
yes,
you can log into mine. You can log into the kids. You can log in and see anything at any time.
I can.
And I can log into yours, but
you don't care.
I never do.
Why? Why would you not really care?
I care. I love you deeply, but I don't.
You might feel compelled to answer somebody's DM.
I'm so sorry Stephanie ghosted you. I would like to respond to this message that is 4 months old. Okay, so maybe we need to ask this question because somebody out there might run into this. What do you do if I want this boundary, but you don't want that boundary? Or you want me to have this boundary, and I don't want that boundary? That's a difficult situation. First of all, I would say that's something you need to talk about in premarital counseling. That's why it's so important, because it will certainly cause conflict in marriage if, for instance, the wife says to the husband, you can't text another woman unless you add me to that text. And he's like, that's ridiculous. I'm never going to do that. Mm-hmm. What do you do in a situation like that?
You don't want to know. I would
No. I don't mean like, will you kill me? I mean like how would you respond? Okay, let me answer that more in a pastoral way. Here's what I would say. Number one,
you didn't really marry the sweetest girl.
I married a fabulous girl. So number one, I think that first and foremost, my job as a husband is to protect your heart, right? And vice versa in a way. Like your job as a wife is to protect my heart as well in a way. And so I would say, and you have to say to a degree, because there probably are some things that might be a little excessive. Like you can never ever speak to another person of the opposite sex. Like that's unreasonable. The bank teller's a female.
Yes.
Come on.
Not realistic.
But I would say in that instance, the person that needs that boundary needs to be heard and needs to be respected. Mm-hmm. So if they
may be trying to build some trust.
Yeah, if there was a situation where you were like, hey, and you've done this before in church life, like, because sometimes some people out there, some certain types of people, for whatever reason, target pastors. Mm-hmm. And you have told me at church, stay away from her.
I have. And
what did I say? Well, give me a reason why. Of course not, right? Like, that's foolish. And so I said, we would talk and say, hey, what are you seeing? Because sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even know the person you're talking about. And you're like, look, Do not. I'm just telling you.
Do not engage.
I've watched her. I've watched her around other staff members. I've watched her around other men. I've watched her around other people. And you need to keep your distance. And in those instances, I have said, absolutely. I think God gives you a little bit of discernment in those moments.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times
It doesn't necessarily have to be in church. It can be in real life, too.
And it has been in real life. You know, you're like, I know you go
not
to
that church life isn't real life,
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily people in the church. It's been people.
There have been moments, I know you go to that office, but not to her. You don't. You know? Or
no, you don't.
Yeah, or you don't engage.
Yeah.
And that's reasonable. And I would say if there's a situation where a husband or a wife feels like their spouse is putting expectations or boundaries on them that they feel are inappropriate, there may be a reason. So maybe it is, like you said a minute ago, they're trying to build trust. Mm-hmm. And it's important for that person to be heard, respected, to be listened to and appreciated. And it all comes back to that healthy communication that we talked about in the last episode. Because if you have this healthy trust that you're already working with, if you look at me and say, hey, I'm not going to give you a reason right now, just stay away from XYZ.
Yeah.
My instinct is going to be to stay away, not to be like, why? No, you got to give me a good reason why. You know, and I think the same thing's true for you.
And some people will buck because they've grown up in controlling environments, or if your spouse is super controlling, what we're talking about is safeguards and boundaries.
In a healthy relationship.
In a healthy relationship. We're not talking about controlling, obsessive.
Yeah, because that does exist too.
It does, 100%, where the husband may control the wife in every move she makes, and that's not acceptable either. But, I mean, so that's totally different than what we are talking about. Yeah. We're talking about healthy boundaries in a healthy marriage to sustain vitality
and communication, and you know, to be on the same page. Yes. I think
there's always anomalies, there's always exceptions, but in this conversation,
anything can be taken to the extreme, and that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes when people come to you and they've not put these boundaries up, something's happened. There's been some loss of trust, or they don't like it. And the husband's not willing to change. Well, you know, I'm always like, well, where's his heart?
Right.
You know, and we as wives or as husbands cannot stop our spouse from sin, or, you know, there's going to be the temptation. It's out there. And so we can't stop them, but we can always pray that they're guarding their hearts, their minds. And that's what we should be praying over our spouse. And I mean, especially as wives, to our husbands. And because people are always trying to attack in some way. I mean, Satan's going to use that in some way, and the heart has to always be guarded. If not, you're open to everything and anything.
Well, I think part of it
doesn't make sense.
Right. I think part of it is guarding my heart from temptation as well, but then guarding your heart, respecting the boundaries that you think need to be in place. But the good news is for us, at least, we talked about this really early. You know, we knew kind of where we were headed. You know, but what about that couple that's already like, oh my goodness, like we're already so far apart on this. I think maybe they need to have a marriage meeting, like we talked about last time.
Maybe
sit down. So if you're in the middle of conflict, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, right? You're just like right there in the middle of it, and all you're trying to do is win a fight. Stop, back up, say, hey, let's talk about our marriage. What are we trying to accomplish here? How can we set some healthy boundaries and work on your marriage? Don't just live in your marriage, work on your marriage and communicate.
Yes. Is it always study your spouse? Always try and learn your spouse?
Yeah. So I tell couples, like, when I do your wedding ceremony, you only have your GED in your spouse, right? That's you're just getting started, and you need to work for the rest of your life to get that diploma, then to get that, you know, associate's degree, and then to get that bachelor's, and then work on your master's and your specialist and your doctorate, and you're really going to be studying and learning the rest of your life.
Yes.
Yep. You're my favorite subject.
To study?
To study.
Yes.
Well, Jesus and you.
There we go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble.
All right. Well, thanks for being here with me today.
Are you hosting the podcast?
No, I think we have some rapid fire
I'm glad
questions.
to be here with you. Rapid fire questions. Mark, set, go.
Who is the safer driver?
Me.
I would say that I would say that Stephanie is
You are a safe driver. We have never.
possibly safer, but I think both of us have kept the other from accidents when we have been riding together. Okay? Is that a good way
That
to say
is
it?
true.
I think she probably has more speeding tickets than I have.
He just doesn't get caught.
I drive by grace, not by law. Sometimes.
Yeah, my tickets have come because of my children at times.
Oh,
So anyway,
okay.
moving
We're going
on,
to play the
moving on.
blame game.
Okay. Pastor Jim, what would be Stephanie's perfect sandwich?
Stephanie's perfect sandwich has no bread. She doesn't want to eat any bread. She just wants to eat the protein and then maybe a little bit of fat and get the macros balanced perfectly. And we don't need all those carbs.
Stephanie, what is your perfect sandwich?
Probably turkey and lettuce.
Bread or no bread?
No
bread,
I
probably.
told you.
Jim's favorite sandwich depends on which season of life he's in. It's going to be peanut butter and jelly for 6 months, right? It's egg sandwich, or then it's going to be turkey.
Turkey and cheese.
Turkey and cheese.
What is it right now?
Right now, it's an egg
Today
sandwich.
was an egg sandwich.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's more of an egg sandwich moment. You never know when it's going to change, though.
Just for myself, like an egg salad sandwich? Or are you
No.
just putting
No.
egg on a sandwich?
Fried egg.
Scrambled eggs, turn it in and then put...
It's like an omelet
It's
between
like a
cheese
breakfast
and bread.
sandwich.
Oh, it's so
I
good.
guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, I cannot cook, but I can make an egg sandwich. And if I made you one, you'd be like, this is good.
Okay. Who is the more organized one?
I am very organized.
Jim.
I thought Stephanie was super organized when we got married, and then I learned her organization style is chaotic. Is that
But
even
I
possible?
can keep us organized as a family.
You handle the business of the
Yes.
family phenomenally.
But I do not organize things well.
If you see her closet, you would think a badger lives in there.
If you saw Jim's closet, you think no one lives there.
I have clothes in there. They're organized and nice and neat.
You're like, an 80-year-old man lives in here.
We need to post pictures of y'all's closet.
No.
Who is more likely to get injured?
Me, I'm much more likely to get
Jim.
injured.
I'm way too cautious
Oh.
to get injured. I'm going to walk out and trip on
I
a
am
piece of carpet, but
much more like. Although I would like to, I would like to say that
you're more adventurous.
I chose not to participate in the recent flag football tournament at Second Baptist Church because I just saw myself being rolled out on a wheelchair. So I decided, I don't know if that was fear or wisdom, but I'm more like, I'm at the age now where I can just get out of bed and pull something. Like, it's the craziest thing. So I'm more likely to get injured, I think.
Okay. What movie does Stephanie love that you cannot stand?
Oh, a movie you love that I can't stand. I don't know.
It would probably be a chick flick.
Yeah, like The Notebook or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You love National Treasure.
I do. We've already told them that, though.
So they can learn it again.
Cinematic masterpiece. Right
Our audience is growing. They need to know all about you. Yeah, but I like National Treasure, so it's not one I can't stand. I don't like a lot of the romantic chick flicks.
What are y'all's vacation styles? Rest and relaxation or explore and discover?
They needed a video. Your face.
Yeah, I didn't roll my eyes, but I kind of cut them over at you. So I like, when I go on vacation, number one, the beach is not fun for me at all. She loves the beach. The beach is sandy, hot, gross, and sweaty, and salty. And so I'm not a big fan of that. Number two, Stephanie, like, she thinks vacation time has to be, let's go, plan. Like, we're going to go here. Now we're going to go there. Now there's so many things to do while we're here. We got to fill every moment with something to do. And I'm like, I would like to just chill. Like
He
I
just
don't,
wants to take a nap.
I don't get to chill.
I'm like, where are we going? What are we
Hey,
going to do? Can we
and-
go explore the city? Which is why I run the cities that we go to.
And the Lord blessed me recently. We were on a trip, and I literally in my mind was like, I'm exhausted, but this is the God's honest truth. I'm gonna love my wife like Christ loved the church, and I am going to go wherever she wants to go and do whatever she wants to do. And I was up for it. I was ready. Hey, what do you want to do? You know what she said? She's like, I want to take a nap. I'm like, yes. So we took a nap, and then we climbed Stone Mountain.
We did.
Yes.
We did.
Ooh, I got one for you today, a dad joke.
Oh, no, it's not good.
This is a great one.
It's not.
Yes. Where do bad rainbows go?
See, this is what we do.
Yeah, this is good. Why are you making that face? Be a happy face. Where do bad rainbows go? Prism. It's a light sentence, but at least they have time to reflect. Oh, that's so good, right?
No.
We need to. Austin is gonna he's gonna edit in lots of laughter after that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, because that's how you feel right now. Not embarrassed at all.
You told that to our children.
And they
did
hated
the same
it.
thing I did. But you thought it was great.
I thought it was great. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Tank.
No, that one's so dumb.
It's great.
I love you.
I
Let's
love
don't
you
finish
too.
this.
We have to, because now you're going to leave them on a cliffhanger.
I don't think there's
Knock,
anybody
knock.
in the world that doesn't know this. Who's there?
Tank,
Tank who?
you're welcome.
I'm so glad I was here today.
I'm so glad you were on this podcast with me, Stephanie Perdue.